Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. We're here in Brookshire County, passing our Portland farms, and in this video we're going to expand a little bit more on some of our cities, much like we did in the last video, and then we're going to try to figure out how we can get machines over on this end of the map. And so I think we're going to look to expand Salt Lake City. I think we might just extend our grid this way, or maybe even think about how to extend up this way a little bit. We're not going to do anything quite as expansive as we did in Roswell or Portland just yet, as I do want to get to some other things before we start doing that. And then over here in Houston, we're going to expand just a little bit, since this is where we're going to hopefully end up getting machines later on in this video. So we'll extend some of our street blocks up this way. And I'm not sure if we'll do anything down here just yet. If anything, we might just extend this street and maybe close off this section with some grids, but nothing too crazy in Houston either. But first and foremost, we're going to finally get this area fixed. These trucks have been a problem for us for quite a while, and I just want to get enough throughput through this area that it will no longer be an issue for us. So I think really it's just a matter of placing down another station here and then rerouting some of our trucks so that we no longer get these traffic issues that we're seeing. So for instance, this intersection here seems to be an issue, and then obviously getting trucks out of this station is starting to become an issue. So that's what we're going to tackle first. Hopefully get that behind us, and then we won't have to worry about this area again for quite a while. Alright, and so now after a good amount of time reworking this area, I think we have something that works out pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with how it functions. So just to walk through it, starting off here, we switched this road to be a one-way road so that we didn't have two roads where trucks were turning left and crossing this lane. So this just reduces the amount of stops that the trucks have to do here and here. We extended our 4-lane road all the way out here because now this is where our main split of traffic is. And we tried to do this in a way where half the lines coming in turns left and then the other half goes straight. So it should pretty evenly distribute these trucks among these two lanes. And then overall, we tried to keep the flow going in a counterclockwise direction around this whole facility, just because, first of all, we don't have the tool unlocked yet to turn off traffic lights, which we would definitely want to do here, since really this road would just end up being a stop sign, and trucks would just have to stop and wait to turn right. But unfortunately, the game turns it into a stoplight, which disrupts the flow a good bit. Pretty much the same thing here. This doesn't really technically need to be a stoplight, since none of these lines cross over each other, so there's no risk of, in real life, what would be an accident because of lines crossing. So even this doesn't technically need to be a stoplight, but the game forces it to be. So that's really where a lot of our struggles came in from, was just increasing the throughput on these roads. But we can see here, this all ended up working out just fine. We flipped the direction of this station because for some reason the street length here was only allowing one truck to go through it at a time, so we're starting to back up at this intersection while trucks were waiting for this section of road to clear. So we just flipped this around so that the only trucks using this road are the ones that need to service this station. And then same thing up here. This unload stop was starting to back up this road and all the trucks on it. So we created a small offshoot, and we now have this one unload stop. I suppose there's an opportunity where we could just mirror it on both sides so that it doesn't have to have two lines worth of trucks coming, but I think this will slowly even out, as we did just clear through our backup. So this is probably just residual trucks that were waiting, and hopefully those will spread out as time goes on. And then after seeing everything else here, I don't think that this station was needed in the end. We could still probably have all three lines coming into this stop here, but until we get the ability to turn off traffic lights, I think I'm okay with just having one line here and two lines using this station. We also had to move this a bit farther down because this exit was restricting the amount of trucks that could exit on this road. So we did have to move that down farther this way, but I think it all came out fine in the end. And so with that, we can move on to other issues. Alright, so I think the next thing that we want to focus on is getting machines into this area of Houston so we can start delivering machines and getting machines over on this side of the map. So I think how we're going to do it is bringing them in by boat to... I suppose we should bring it into our Salt Lake City port, since this is sort of our cargo hub area on this side. So we're going to go from our machines factory out by Pittsburgh, bringing machines in by boat. Now I'm aware that this is going to be a small amount of machines for now. This is just more or less sort of a proof of concept so we can build up the infrastructure on this end to deliver machines around, and then maybe then once we start to have a real demand for machines on this end, we can either find better boats to bring machines in, or maybe by train, because I really don't want to set up more than one machines factory on the whole map. So if we can keep it all over in Pittsburgh, that would sort of be best for us. And so as we can see, here is that machines factory. We'd be bringing it down this river, around this bend, and then following this river all the way over until we get to Salt Lake City. So first of all, we're going to have to ramp up production here at the machines factory, as it looks like planks are actually becoming a big limiting factor here, and it's been a while since we've looked at or upgraded this line at all, so there is a whole lot of potential that we can squeeze out of here. We just need to upgrade it and then even out the amount of steel and planks that we're bringing in, and then from there we can figure out how much extra machines we can take over to Salt Lake City. And so currently, if we take a look at our steel mill, it looks like all of these industries are doing pretty well. It looks like we're bringing in slightly more coal now. I'm not sure if that was always the case or not, but more or less taking a look at these boats, we're able to bring steel in at a rate of 520. As for our planks, we're able to bring those in at a rate of 434. So I think ideally, let's try to get those both up around 600. Now the steel's going to be much higher, just because if we duplicate, we'll probably end up with much more. But let's see if there's maybe a better boat that we can use. And it looks like the boats we're currently using look to be the best boats still. So we'll keep these. We'll get a 5th boat on. That brings us up to 650. I think that's an okay rate to try to match. So let's do the same for this line. We'll do 650 planks. And so just duplicating a few times, we can get pretty close. 627. I think I'd rather be on the slightly higher end for planks, so 675. I think that's a good rate to be at. And now we have these trucks here that we need to upgrade. Now, because planks is a 2-to-1 ratio for logs to planks, if we do the math, aiming for 650 planks, we will want to be bringing in logs at about a rate of, I believe it'd be 1,300. And so these dirt roads are starting to get a little limiting for some of our trucks. If we take a look here, both of these forests are outputting quite a lot. So I think maybe this road we can start to upgrade to a paved road. So we'll upgrade this all the way until we get back into this sawmill. It looks like we can't upgrade any of these, probably due to collisions. So I think we'll leave this all as dirt for now. I think that gives it a fine look. But now we can take a look at these trucks, manage them, and let's just see what we're upgrading from. So we have these Mack AC flatbed trucks with a capacity of 8 and a top speed of 19. Ideally, we'd be upgrading those to probably this flatbed with side stakes, which looks like it can carry a good bit more, 9 to 13. I'm not sure how much logs would be on this. Probably closer to the 13 end of the capacity, and almost doubling the top speed at 37 miles an hour. So doing this, we're going to have to sell a ton of trucks on this line, but I think it will be for the best. We'll just give it a moment to update the rate, or we might actually be just fine with where we're at. And so it looks like we're already going to be starting to limit ourselves here, as we're starting to get some trucks backing up at this station and then down here at the port. So I think what might be best is to split this up into 2 separate lines with 2 separate loading and unloading points, just so that you can see here these trucks have to wait so long before the next one can enter the station. So if we split this up into 2 unload spots, we can get a lot more trucks coming in through this area, and then we can just balance it so that we end up with a rate of 650 for each line, and then we can go from there. We'll do the same thing up here. We'll probably get a loading spot probably in this area, I think, and then hopefully that will work just fine. Alright, so now we're going to let things settle in with our trucks here, and we'll come back and check the line rates in a little bit. Once things spread out, get settled, we'll probably have to sell off a few trucks, but that's fine. And now, next, let's take a look at our machines factory here and see if there's anything that we can do. So ideally we'd end up with 650 coming out of this machines factory, and currently we're supplying Roswell, Allentown, and Pittsburgh. Let's make sure those needs are met before we ship out to Salt Lake City. So here in Pittsburgh they're requesting 400, and I don't think we're ready to do that. We're only delivering 47 anyway, so we might need to check out what's going on there. But next, we're delivering to Roswell, and they're getting a good amount. I think 200 is fine out of the 600 they need. We'll definitely need to really ramp up our production in a lot of these areas soon. But as long as they're getting a good chunk of resources, I think we're okay. Lincoln's okay. And I believe there was one more city getting machines. That would be Allentown. And they're getting almost their whole demand of machines. So I'm not worried about Allentown's demand. That'll actually just go as our plank ships end up taking machines out there. So I'm not worried about that one at all. And so I do want to get Pittsburgh's numbers up a little bit, but I don't want to take away from our Salt Lake City line. So I think maybe we get Pittsburgh up to 100, and then we'll leave that off. Because again, we're only dealing with 650 machines coming out of the factory, and these all added up would probably be close-ish to 500. So that would leave us with 150 machines to ship out to Salt Lake City. And one thing I'm already noticing is we're going to have to upgrade this port here. So let's extend this, allow some more boats to stop in. And then once we're done with that, we'll make sure Pittsburgh is getting all the machines it needs. And then by that point, we should be able to check back in on our logs trucks. Alright, so now this port area here should be able to handle pretty much anything now that it's extended. One thing we will place back is our shipyard, which looks like it conforms to the edge of the water. So we'll just place this a little bit out of the way. Alright, so now we have that placed out here. And I believe everything should be good now with our ships. We should start to see this ramping up. And so now we just need to check this truck line here. And this is probably what's limiting us. We're only able to bring a total of 400 out of here by truck. So I think if we get this up to 500, that should be all that we need to do. And again, I think this is another situation where we'll probably just upgrade all of these roads to allow for faster, more upgraded trucks to come through here. And so then all we need to do is grab all of these, upgrade them. We'll upgrade these to the Opal Blitz tarpaulin truck, and we'll see that brings our rate up to 550-ish. Which we do want to go a little bit less than that, so we'll sell off a little bit, get that down to about 500. And then I think that's a pretty good spot to leave these trucks off at. And so coming in here to Pittsburgh, I believe this is where we'll be able to see our machines trucks. Yeah, this line rate is set to about where we want it to be already. I just think we weren't delivering them enough. I think more of it was getting routed to the cargo hub than to Pittsburgh. So hopefully with this increased throughput on this upgraded line, it should be able to start handling that pretty well. And so now I think we can come back to our sawmill and start to take a look at what's going on down here. So first of all, our single logs line is up at 1100 rate, and our other one is up to 637. So we're already producing way more planks than we would need to. So let's come in here. We want to bring this down to about 650. So we could probably sell off a good portion of these vehicles. So if we just grab maybe 15, see how much that takes it down. Yeah, we're still up around like 800. So we'll sell off 10 more. That will get us down to 666, which is pretty much what we need. Over here we're at 642. I think those lines will start to balance out each other over time. If we're overproducing planks, I think that's perfectly fine. I'd rather overproduce than underproduce. So that should all work out. It looks like we're not having any traffic issues anywhere. Looks like everything's running pretty smooth. Hopefully this line starts to cut down now that we sold some of our trucks, which it looks like it already is. So everything will be just fine down here. And then I did forget that Allentown is taking some of these machines, so really we're only left with about 50 to 75 machines to ship out to Salt Lake City, but I think that should be fine, as again we're only really just testing this out to see if it'll work. So I think let's set up that line. We'll get a machines line running in Salt Lake City, and then we'll move on from there. Alright, so this should be as simple as selecting a boat to use. And again, I think it's going to have to be this one. For a line this long, speed is really going to matter. We'll start out with 10 boats, and those will go from here all the way over to Salt Lake City. And then we'll just want to make sure that we're setting things up properly, make sure nothing gets mixed around, especially on the return trip from Salt Lake City. Maybe in the future we'll do that so that we can get the most out of these boats, but I think for now we just want to bring machines in. We'll worry about the logistics of the return trip and whatnot later, but this looks to be good. We'll just rename it, and then we'll have to set up a truck line into Salt Lake City to deliver those machines. And so then, in order for us to generate the demand in Salt Lake City, we'll just grab, I think 5 trucks is all we'll need, and we'll go from here, and then we'll actually have to figure out where those machines need to go. It looks like we can cover most of them with this stop, but I think we might just do our own separate drop-off. Yeah, let's do our own separate drop-off for machines. So we'll do that. And then, well, actually we already had one here, so we can just set that up, make sure it's grabbing machines, and then we should be good. Alright, and so we can see we're already getting some machines set up here. And if we look at our consumers, we can see the demand for Salt Lake City slowly ticking up. We'll have to wait and see where that ends up resting to see what we would want our line rate to be coming out of here. But I think for now this is a success. We'll wait for things to spread out, even out. And while we do that, we will focus on detailing and expanding some of our cities. And so before we move on, something that I thought about, which we're not going to set up quite yet, but I think we might finally be able to get some use out of this train on the return trip. Because our goods factory is all the way out here, I think we can have this train bring goods in return back this way, drop them off at this steel mill, where they can then get on either the same boat or a different line shipped over to here, and then that way we could have goods and machines shipped out to Salt Lake City on one line, and it wouldn't be too ridiculous since there'd be a few transfers. It wouldn't just be one long line from one corner of the map to the other, but that is a possibility in the future. Of course, the easy way could just be using planes, but that's just something I thought about that I noticed. But now we can move on to everything else we're going to do. And so the first thing I think we're going to do is we're going to detail this area a little bit more. I think we're going to get an actual road depot area here. We'll clean up some of these areas. We'll fix whatever's going, or at least try to fix whatever's going on with this bridge right here, and just make this area start to come together a bit more. And then once we do that, we'll extend Salt Lake City's street grid a bit, and then we'll head over to Houston and pretty much do the same thing over there. Alright, and so I think what we've done here is pretty good. I like how this area came together. It's pretty functional and looks pretty good too. We do have to just quickly clean up over here, but once we quickly get that done, we can take a look at what else we've done around Salt Lake City. Alright, and so we can see we added this truck station here for, well, right now it's currently just serving our construction materials. We have this truck station here serving our machines. We have these two here doing what they've been doing. And it looks like our tools line might need adjusting. But then over here we have our road depot and our tram depot. This was a little tricky to work out, as it seems like they're not snapping directly perfectly 90 degrees to the road, so we had to do some weird stuff to get this to potentially work, but I'm okay with how it looks for now. And then over here we just added a few more grids, made it a little bit neater, and then over here we started our extension of our main road up into these hills, and overall I think it came out pretty okay. There's obviously a lot more room to grow, but we just wanted to relieve some of the pressure building up in Salt Lake City. And then lastly, we can quickly come in here to Houston. We'll extend a few of these road grids, clean up this area, make sure that this won't continue happening. And then I think then we can start to take a look at our machine boat line and end off there. So let's quickly get into Houston, do this quick, and we will be right back once that's done. Alright, and I think that's going to do it for Houston. So we added these, I'm going to call them more like guide roads. These are some of our more main roads cutting through here. So this one will probably end up eventually connecting down to near where our oil wells are. And then this one will probably extend over this way and then into whatever town we end up building out here. And then we'll eventually fill in this space as demand continues to build. But the bulk of where we expanded was up here, just filling in a couple of these blocks, just extending that more. And I think that sets us up pretty good to just continue building a grid all the way up until we reach where our airport road is. But we're not going to do that right now, as I do want Houston to slowly build out. There's a whole lot of other things I want to do first. And I'm not sure if this is too far away from the city center for Houston to build. So we're not going to build all the way out there until we're sure enough that we can actually fill that in. But for now, I think we're good enough. Let's take a look at our machines line now. Alright, so we can now see some of our machine boats making it to Salt Lake City. Unfortunately, they don't have anything just yet, but we do have some boats. Yeah, we can see over here, we do have some boats bringing machines over, and those would have just recently left. If we take a look, here's one. So we will eventually get machines. It's just going to take a while. I'll probably let this run a little bit between videos just so that these boats can spread out and we can start to get some flow coming through here. Now, right now, the game says that our line rate is 166 on this. I'm not sure if I believe that. We might have to wait 1 or 2 cycles for this to update. This is probably much lower given that we have 12 boats running at 20 miles an hour, a good distance across the map. So I believe this rate's much lower than what the game tells us. I think it's just a little bit thrown off just because the boats haven't done a full cycle of the line yet. But I think with that, let's take a look at everything we've done so far, and then when we come back, we will check up on our food processing plant, make sure everything's running good there how we want it to, and then we'll talk about some of the next projects that we'll work on. Alright, and so here we can see our food processing plant. We can see everything is holding up pretty well. We don't have any holdups anywhere. Looks like this intersection's a little bit busier, but it's not backing up, which is good. And I think everything's running pretty well. We can see here, we don't have the shipment numbers up for both of these to be fully upgraded, but speaking of that, I think our next step is going to be maxing out this food processing plant. We have Portland, Salt Lake City, and Houston all demanding a good portion of food, and I think having this food processing plant maxed out should be able to serve all 3 of these cities, especially since Salt Lake City, we just saw there, needs 700, Portland needs 400, and then over here Houston needs another 200 food. I think we can start to really max this area out and start delivering the amount of food that we need to serve those 3 cities. And then I think along with that, we're going to get some of our first connections between cities. So I think we're going to start to connect Portland up to Houston by road, so that we can finally start to get some private transportation between these cities, maybe a highway so that we can more easily transport goods and people by road. We might also connect up Salt Lake City, but that might be a little tricky as there's not really a nice landing spot over here, or at least I haven't really thought of a nice way to connect the highway to Salt Lake City, but I think we will get a connection from Portland to Houston. I think that'll look quite nice. We can see we already sort of have how this road would look here based on this generated road, but we'd probably land somewhere in this area where it would wind down into a regular road here. Farther in the future, we would extend that and take that out to Tacoma. But since it's just 2 cities, we don't have to worry too much about where it lands in each one at the moment. However, checking in on Portland, we can see it is starting to fill in a good bit of this area that we built before. You can see it's sort of taken over this corner. It's going to slowly expand as time goes on, but we can see it still has a good amount of target population to reach. It looks like the charts haven't accurately updated yet the reflection of buildings, but we can see that Portland is starting to grow a lot. So hopefully soon we'll start to see this filling out a lot more, and we'll get a more clear idea of what this will look like. But this is exciting to see. And then coming back to this goods factory, I think we will try to send some goods on the return trip and connect that up to our machines line as we mentioned before. I definitely think that's an idea worth trying. It'll at least make this train a bit more viable, as if we take a look at its finances, it's still just barely breaking even. So if we can just bump it up a little bit, I'll be a lot more comfortable with the money that this train will make, and it'll also just feel right having the train at least partially full on a return trip. So that's something else to justify that move. And then as for our cities, we will continue to just slowly expand them, much like we did in this video. So I think we'll try to hit Allentown next. I wanted to do it in this video, but we just didn't have time. So we'll try to expand Allentown a little bit the next opening that we get, since it is really taking over this private road and doing whatever it wants. We can see it desperately wants to expand. But overall, I think we're in a pretty good position. We have nothing really pressing that I think we need to desperately look at or connect, so I'm happy with that. And so with that, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.